So my husband and I were both working there, so we'd hand the child over in the car park. He did night shift and I did days or evenings, and we got through it. And then I finished that, and that was at a tiny private psychiatric hospital called Mount St Margaret's. As soon as I finished, I went back to Concord Hospital and worked in mental health then. Then had second daughter in 1988.
Wow.
Wow.
What was it that led you to become interested in dementia?
Some of that was that I was living the experience of my grandfather at the time. Because my grandparents, I skipped that. When I married, we actually bought a house with my grandparents as well. So we had 2 flats, and the deal, well, the understanding was that as they aged, we would, care for them, but it wasn't really a spoken understanding. And so my grandfather, around the time my first daughter was about 2, started to show signs, and it progressed. And I could see what being in a family environment and more nurturing helped him. And I just got interested in that part of the world.
And how did this lead you to eventually becoming involved in the Montefiore home?
Okay. In about 1991, after I also did my gerontology training, because I thought I always wanted to do that, and I always wanted to move into true gerontology. So I did my gerontology training about 1990 to 91, and then I was lucky, I think, to become the nursing unit manager of a newly opening ward at Concord Hospital, which was a behaviourally disturbed and dementia unit, really, but for people that were acutely sick in the hospital. And I opened that, and I was there for about 7 years. And at that time, I'll say, Dr. Agnes Gaynor, was one of the doctors there. And over time, there were different Jewish people that did come into that ward. And I learned a little bit more. But at the time also, my husband was really, he might have been a psychiatric nurse, but he was also an amateur historian. So he was very interested in Jewish history, and he was bringing home more information. So then towards the end of 97, a position was advertised at Montefiore. I applied and I went there. And within a few months, I was the nursing unit manager of the dementia unit there, the special care unit.
And that is a place that is very close to my heart, because my mum is there, and you certainly laid a very good foundation for the care there, because we are just very, very happy with the unit and with the care that she receives. So at that time, you and your husband had thought about a path to becoming Jewish?
Yeah, we talked about it over that time when I was working at Montefiore, because I turned into the question person of the rabbi at the time, who was a pretty radical rabbi at the time. He's no longer there, but he would answer questions and give me logical answers to why things were happening, because over the time I'd ended up by default in the acting position of Director of Care of Montefiore at Hunters Hill. So I wanted to understand why these people were doing what they were doing, and how I could further establish things.
And so you were at the Monty at special care for how long?
A couple of years at special care, and then ended up deputy. I was director for a short time, and then I went into the deputy position.
Right, and your husband became ill.
Yeah, over time he became ill. I left Monty in about 2001 because I felt like I needed to get more experience in residential aged care, and I felt that I was in a protected environment in Monty, which I was. A beautiful environment, but so I went out and got some more experience. And over that time, I was in contact with a couple of people from Montefiore, and my husband became unwell, and he died in 2006. And so, just before he died, I'd got a call from Monty asking me to come back, or come in, we want to talk to you about positions at the New Randwick. And I'd been involved in the New Randwick when the land was bought. And we were the first architect's appointments. So at that point, I had an interview, I accepted the job, and over a weekend, I realised I couldn't start a job with a husband so sick. Mm-hmm. So I withdrew the application, and it progressed. He passed away in the October, and February, Monty rang me back and said, we've heard what's happened, we're really sorry, but are you ready? So I thought, I don't know if it was madness or what, I took the challenge and went to Monty.
Just before you went back, you were working at the James Milson Nursing Home.
Yes.
And you had quite an exciting day one Christmas.
Yeah, just after Christmas, New Year, I was involved in an armed robbery where I was held at sharpened screwdriver point. It was pretty awful. And that was one of the turning points that I thought, I need to get out of this place. I've had too many bad memories here, so it's time to move on.
Was anybody else injured in that attack?
No one was injured, thank God. But the guys did go to another. They killed someone about 2 weeks later in Leichhardt, a restaurant person that broke it. They'd gone in the same sort of scenario, and he chased them, and they killed one. And so they've been they were charged and went to prison. So
good. Well, I hope they're still there.
Yeah, I do too.
Goodness me, what an experience. So you went back to the Monty, and that was when you finally decided that it was time to become Jewish.
Kind of. So I got back there, and it was quite a weird experience. I remember walking through on a Friday evening when a Shabbat service was happening, and I felt like I was home. I could hear stuff, I could feel it. So then I started staying back on a Friday and helping with Kiddush and doing things with the rabbi, and I was very comfortable. And my daughters came, like we went to the Seders when I was there, and it just felt comfortable. It felt like I was home. So I wasn't sure about it. So I thinking, what is going on? And it was new. It's like I was newly widowed. I thought, don't make any rash decisions now. And then it was a very hard time at Monty because it was the commissioning of the whole facility. So after a couple of years, I thought I need to go and have a bit of an easier life. So I left Monty again and went and worked with United Care with mental health and homelessness geriatrics. So that was a change. But when I left is when I thought there's something missing. And I woke up and I didn't know, it was the Yom Kippur, and I made the decision that I was going to investigate converting. So there you are.
So what was the next step in the conversion process?
I went
kind of walk us through what that journey was.
First I met with Rabbi Rogat because I formed like a connection with him over the time, met with him. He kind of wasn't surprised, could understand. he gave me what I had to do next was, make an appointment with the Beth Din, apply. So you put in an application, you put in a bit of your story. So I did that, and then you get an appointment. So your first appointment with the Beth Din is quite frightening for someone that's coming to them. And that appointment was, why do you want to do this? And so I had to talk to it. And I was sent away with, you need to read this book and do this stuff and ring us back and make another appointment in, I think it was 6 weeks. And I didn't know, but usually people are sent away and told not to come back for months. So I read the book, lapped it up, went back, and at that appointment they assigned me a teacher, which, so I have assigned a teacher who was Judith Ingram, and from then on I think I met with her once a week for probably 18 months and learnt. So learnt Hebrew text as much as I could and everything.
And were you required right from the beginning then to start keeping kosher?
Yes. Well, yes. Keep kosher, go to shul. Rabbi Roget, because I was living at Bondi then, I actually sold my family home and moved. Rabbi Roget told me where he thought I'd fit into shul the most comfortably, which was Nefesh. So I went there and I became part of that community really quickly.
And then the actual conversion process, so that was now a total of about 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had an appointment I got to a point where they said, it's time to go back to the Beth Din, check in, and so I had to go armed with letters from Rabbi Moss, and the teacher had to put in letters to formally go through the last part. So then I met with the Beth Din, I got approved, a bit traumatic, but lots of questions, and that was okay. And then I think it was within a few days I went to the mikveh. So, and then a year later I was given my certificate.
A year later? Why that length of time?
I don't know. I don't know why the Beth Din did that, but they did. So there was no risk of me having babies or anything. So it was an incredible experience.
And then you met Daryl after that?
Yeah, about a year after that, after I'd been in the mikveh, through a friend that set us up to meet, and we met, and the story has gone on.
the rest is history, as they say, and so now you are because of his family connection with the Greats, you are now a well-loved member of the Great. You got married at the Great?
Yes, I did.
About 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah, yes. Now, you have, your 2 daughters have given you some lovely grandchildren?
Yes. So I have, Rochelle has Lachlan, who's 10 now, and Olive, who is 6, and that daughter became a jeweler, so she's a jeweler, and she's just set up her own business now because she's had quite a few years of a very sick child who's finally starting to get through this. And my other daughter, Bronwyn, has Lyra, who's 6, and she had another son called Gabriel who passed away at 10 months.
And you have, Daryl also has children, and you have grandchildren on his side too.
So 2 more, Ari and Remy.
Absolutely wonderful.
And 1 on the way.
And one on the way in Israel. That's right. So you then became a counsellor at Lifeline.
Yeah, a crisis phone answerer, whatever you want to call us. I did that about 3 years ago. I trained to be a counsellor on Lifeline, and I go about once a week. In this lockdown time, I haven't. Up till yesterday, I did my first shift back, and it was lovely, in a strange way. Strange. And I also still do some consulting work as a aged care consultant, but a very small amount. And I've just trained to be an end-of-life doula.
Tell us about that, Simone. I'm very interested in that.
Nursing, I've always been involved in people at the end of life and always been very comfortable in that space. And working in residential aged care, you do a lot of that, being with family. And I've always been someone that would be with family. So I felt comfortable with it. And it was my daughter that had lost the baby said, do you know there's an end-of-life doula? And I think that'd suit you. So I investigated. I did the course late last year, and I'm in the process of setting up the business. But with all this that's happened, I haven't been able to.
I'm really interested. What does an end-of-life doula do? I know what a childbirth doula does, and you prepare the mum and then you're with her during the actual birth. How does this translate to end-of-life doula?
End-of-life doula is someone that supports and goes through the process with someone. So if someone's diagnosed with cancer, and they might ring an end-of-life doula to support them and remind them to do the things that they should be doing if they want to, like an advanced care directive, make sure that their affairs are in place, and just support them, and maybe even go to doctor's appointments with them if that's what they want. It's just to have someone separate from the family, but to just walk with them in the path of what's going to happen, and support the families too.
Was this be in conjunction with hospice care?
Yes. So it can be in conjunction with hospice care that people go into the hospice, but a lot of people are choosing to die at home. So it's in that end-of-life space at home too. So the only person that might be there is the doula, and the family. And it's trying to get the families to connect and spend time in that space and not waste it, really, if that's what they want to do.
I think it's absolutely wonderful that families don't feel that they have to face this traumatic event alone, and they have support of someone like you. That's wonderful. Simone, your life story is just amazing.